Wait till he get a belt.
Yeah.
He ain't did nothing in the welterweight today.
You
When
have
he get
did
a belt,
nothing.
when he
You
get a
have
belt,
did
you want to
You
go
have
over
did
there. Keith Thurman want to go over there, and now y'all want to say, "Oh, I ain't fought nobody," but I got a belt now, so why?
Okay. Sean Porter got a belt too.
So now
Sean Porter got a belt too. Sean Porter. So why am I go to easy road and you not Sean Porter out? So why am I go to easy road and you not Sean Porter out?
So why am I go to easy road and you not Sean Porter out? So why am I go to easy road and you not Sean Porter out?
Who mans is this? Get him the fuck out of here.
So what I do, YouTube? It's your boy King David in this thing, and I'm back at y'all again with another video. Okay, so before we get going on the video, man, y'all know what to do. Go ahead, hit the like button, and if you're new here, be sure to subscribe one time for your boy, so we can continue to grow like we need to grow on this channel. You know what I mean? So yes, sir, man. Just when I thought that Errol Spence couldn't look worse, just when I thought that Errol Spence Jr. couldn't make a worse account for himself, he does an interview and he says something that's even more confirmation that he's the biggest duck in professional boxing. But don't take my word for it. Check out this interview that Errol Spence Jr. did this weekend and tell me what y'all think.
Gave up $100 million, but you weren't going to take that no matter what, because the loyalty you have to the people that brought you up, kind of thing. And he's not mentioning whose it's coming from, but is that the case? Like, he could come up with any amount of money, but you're not going to take that deal because first of all, you don't know where it's coming from, but also because of loyalty with your people.
Yeah, man, I like this. We're gonna end it. We began it together. We're gonna end it together. You know what I mean?
So y'all heard this man Errol Spence. This man Errol Spence said that he would give up $100 million in order to be loyal to Al Heyman. This man said he wouldn't take $100 million because him and Al are like this, right? Y'all can't see my fingers, but I'm crossing them right now, right? So I mean, if that ain't confirmation that Errol Spence Jr. ain't his own boss, if that ain't confirmation that Errol Spence Jr. is the biggest duck in professional boxing, I don't know what he is. How can a man say when he's never made more than $5 million in a single fight, maybe you could say $10 million in a single fight, given an opportunity to make 10 times more than what he made in his last fight, turns down the opportunity out of some sort of loyalty to Al Heyman? I mean, I like that song too by Kendrick Lamar. You know what I mean? I like the song too, but $100 million worth? I don't like the song that damn much. You know what I mean? I just need y'all to think about this for a second. What reason would Al Heyman have to advise Errol Spence not to take $100 million? I mean, most of you Spence fanboys predict that the Bud fight versus Errol fight would do $100 million, right? Even though that's a far out, way out ass number, right? Because in order to do $100 million in revenue, you'd have to do $1.2 million in pay-per-view buys, right? You'd have to do about a million in pay-per-view buys, and then you'd have to generate some gate, right? $10 million gate, you'd have to generate some gate in order to do $100 million in revenue, right? So most of the people out there, you don't predict that Errol Spence and Terence Crawford is going to do $100 million. So why would Al advise Errol Spence not to take $100 million? I mean, let's break this down. Now, there's only two conceivable reasons why you would turn down $100 million, right? You'd either turn it down for A, because you believe you can make more money than $100 million, right? Which is interesting considering even the Errol Spence fanboy doesn't predict this fight doing more than 100 million, right? But if you think that you can generate more than $100 million for Errol Spence Jr., then what would be the reason for offering both fighters no guarantee? If that's how you're feeling and you got the gumption and the capacity to turn down $100 million, right? Or B, which is the much more likely scenario, the scenario that your boy King David is leaning towards, and that's the fact that you don't want the fight, right? Now I know you Errol Spence fans would just love to have it both ways, but you can't. You can't have it both ways, man. I know you want to, but you can't. There's no way you can tell me that Bud Crawford don't deserve a guarantee and Bud Crawford don't sell, but you expect him in the same breath to generate $100 million, right? And then in that same breath, Errol Spence has the capacity, the unmitigated gall to say that even if he was offered $100 million, he would turn it down, right? I mean, you can't make this shit up even if you tried. You can't make this shit up even if you tried. According to you Spence fangirls, Bud don't sell, but yet y'all expect Bud and Errol to generate $100 million in pay-per-view buys, right? But at the same time, give Errol Spence leeway to turn down $100 million, which is more than what he would have generated with Bud Crawford altogether. And 10 times more than Errol Spence's highest purse. But this makes a whole lot of sense to you niggas. I mean, but let's keep it going. The next thing that pops into my mind is we already established why Al would turn down $100 million, right? But for Errol Spence, if he was offered $100 million, that's 10 times more than what his highest purse is, right? That's 10 times more than he's ever made in his career. $100 million is enough money to be able to retire off of and live comfortably. You know what I mean? So, if you're Errol Spence Jr. and you get an offer for $100 million, you got Al Heyman as your advisor. Al Heyman is telling you he don't want you to take the $100 million. There's a difference between loyalty and stupidity. Right? Why in the fuck would you turn down $100 million when you know you're probably never going to see that kind of money ever in your goddamn life outside of a fight with a Terence Bud Crawford? And I get that this is all hypothetical. I get that this is all hypothetical at this particular moment. But we taking it at face value. Just what Errol Spence said, that even if they came with $100 million, he would turn down the fight. So Errol Spence Jr. would turn down $100 million. $100 million ain't enough for you to go against Al Heyman and tell him, I want this fight. I want this money. $100 million ain't enough for you to be able to grow some balls and go against your promoter and do what the fuck it is that you want to do, which is make $100 million for one fight. That's not enough for you to be able to stand your ground. I don't know what is. I don't know what is. Errol Spence. So, again, for Errol Spence to look at that kind of money coming to his hand and turn it down, it's another indication that Errol Spence Jr. don't want the fight. And you know what else comes to mind? In addition to all that, you know what else comes to mind? If Al Heyman could tell you to turn down $100 million, what's to stop him from telling you he don't want the Terence Bud Crawford fight? Right? 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 I know a lot of you Errol Spence fans, you ain't gonna like that. You ain't gonna like hearing that. I know your boy King David making way too much sense out here on these boxing streets, but if Al Heyman can tell Errol Spence to turn down $100 million, what's to stop Al Heyman from saying, I don't want this fight for you, Errol Spence, and you're not taking this fight? Somebody make this shit make sense to me. If I got the power over a dude to tell him I don't want him to take $100 million, that essentially means I can get this dude to do whatever the fuck I want him to do, don't it? That essentially means that I got control over this man, don't it? That essentially means that I'm the boss and he's the employee, don't it? Right? That should settle any Errol as his own boss arguments, because, I mean, it was already out the window. But, I mean, goddamn. The man said he would turn down $100 million in order to fight Terence Bud Crawford. 10 times more than he's ever seen in his life for one fight. He turned it down. Right? But last but not least, man. Last but not least. Doesn't this $100 million offer sound very similar to the $50 million offer that Terence Bud Crawford said in that live that he offered Errol Spence Jr. and Errol Spence Jr. walked away from carelessly, right? Doesn't this sound reminiscent to what already transpired between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr.? Terence Crawford goes to Errol Spence Jr. with $50 million and doesn't even get a call back from Errol Spence Jr. Terence Bud Crawford goes to Al Heyman with the $50 million, and Al Heyman says he doesn't want nobody touching this fight. Al Heyman turns his nose up at the money. But if you got the gumption to turn your nose up at $50 million, then there should be some reason why there's no guarantee for this fight. I'm just really trying to figure it out, and no Errol Spence Jr. fan seems to be able to answer these questions. These oh so important questions. But we'll go ahead and wrap the video up right here, man. At the end of the day, man, Errol Spence is the biggest duck in professional boxing. I think it's just been proven over and over and over again. And, you know, if you don't see it, it's because you choose not to. Point blank, period, in the discussion, man. But let me know what you think about this video, man. Hit it up in the comment section below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And everybody, and I do mean everybody, be sure to hit that goddamn like button on your way out. But until next time, man, I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.